My crew and I, really, one of our edicts to ourselves is to never repeat ourselves. We make it part of our operating principle that we don't just use the same material. But especially something like Reloaded and Revolutions, we wanted everything to sound new to us and to the audience. Recording sound effects is part of the sound post-process that nobody wants to think about. You know, nobody certainly wants to pay for it. So we have to find very, very cost-effective ways of doing these really crazy things. In a lot of ways, they're commensurate in difficulty with what they're having to shoot visually, you know? Microphones really are our instruments, but we do endanger them a lot. We don't have the equivalent of a long lens at all. You know, microphones are best up close.
I bet that overloaded.
One of the challenges of the car chase was that it's very long and had to build. You know, there had to be some dynamic arc to the whole scene. We also knew that the music was going to be very prominent, you know, that driving techno music. So we knew there wasn't a whole lot of room there for a lot of subtlety. We started casting for the Ducati bike very early on also, which was a huge challenge. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be, but you can rarely use the exact same vehicle, you know, for the sound that you see on picture. We find cars that seem to have superpowers as far as aggressiveness and find ways to record those vehicles. And even vehicles like Niobe's are really great cars. We listened to a lot of cars and we blew up a really great car trying to get it to sound even more dramatic than it does. Sentinels were a very complex sound to begin with. You know, they each had between 10 and 16 tracks that are varying all the time and modulate with, you know, how the Sentinel's flying and what angle we're seeing them at. But now we had to extrapolate that into a huge flock of these things and yet still get some sense of frightening efficiency, you know, out of what we hear. Also, weapons had to be really created from scratch, from the ships to the giant towers. So we recorded lots and lots of gigantic caliber weapons using some more novel techniques. We had the Civil War cannon that fires 2-inch lead cannonballs. We fired that cannonball through lines of washing machines and all kinds of metal debris to get ripping sounds for the sounds of these giant large caliber bullets going through Sentinels from the siege scene. We wanted that to be a very unique, very painful, animalistic, gory metal sound.
You know your predecessors had much more respect.
When you experience a loud sound, especially a very transient sound like a gunshot in real life, emotionally what you're experiencing is that overload.
So that's what happens if you don't wait.
Yeah.
Gotta wear and protect your hearing.
What we try to do in movies is to recreate or emulate that feeling of having your hearing system overloaded. And we do that through limiting and compression techniques and distortion and overload techniques as well. The other factor also that's important is small caliber weapons really don't make that much of a sound. But it still has to be dramatic. So even as we're recording 22s, we're incorporating a little bit of something else in it. It's the same with fight sounds, obviously. The original library that we constructed had an arc to it. You know, the sounds in the original Matrix fights starts with a very natural kind of sound in the first training session in the dojo and ends up this insanely brutal sound when Smith and Neo are fighting in the subway tunnels. In order to create a new vocabulary of hits, instead of using my own body, as I so often do for fight sounds, we hired some professional fighters. We got these to jiu-jitsu pros and just got them into our studio and a couple of other studios and just had them beat the crap out of each other for what ended up being 4 days, you know, and throwing each other onto cement and having them run and slam their backs into each other, and, you know, just to create a whole new library of violent, you know, body sound. But on top of the impact sounds, a very key part of the way the fight sound in the Matrix is the whooshes. We constructed an enormous collection of devices for making air whoosh, from you know, stacks of CDs with little spacers in between them, you know, being spun around, to all kinds of this weird metal technical grill. We would just swing them all around as hard as we could around microphones. You know, one of the most daunting challenges of the Matrix movies, and any movie that's highly visual effect heavy, is that we basically can't see the movie that we're working on, because the visual effects people are evolving the look of the movie simultaneous with us evolving the sound of the movie. From talking with Zach and Larry and Andy and John and people about what that really is going to comprise when it gets all rendered out, we can start to guess about the sound of it. But, in many cases, we don't see the movie until the audience does. I mean, if we see it finished before we ship the final soundtrack, the final print master of the movie, we're lucky. Well, the thing I like most about our work on the Matrix movies is just how significant the movies themselves have become. You know, that's very, very exciting and gratifying in a lot of ways. You know, and all of us in sound and in visuals, and Larry and Andy, and you know, everybody, and in music, I think we all feel like we work together to make something very rich, you know, and very whole.